we're going to talk a little about AniFem once again. And I really don't want to talk about AniFem because, to be perfectly honest, they're not the biggest thing in the world to be concerned about. Oh, sure, they have people in Crunchyroll, but these people are acting in individual capacities. I have issue about that, and unfortunately, I need to cover that up in a separate video in the future, because if I cover it up here, it would derail the conversation. I want to stick for the topic at hand and cover about that one later. Now, ever since my last video, AniFem has been pretty tame. There's a rather amusing article that they write about School Days, one of the worst animes with the best endings ever, and it's actually not that bad. I'll leave the archived version of the article right down below. And ever since then, AniFem just basically focused more on bringing content with the assistance of people at Crunchyroll. What they're doing is to recommend more and more animes that are not problematic to their feminist lens, doing interviews with an independent manga artist, and just basically writing articles in their feminist lens. On those actions alone, I'm totally cool with it. The reason why I don't really bother going after them is just they're a small site operating on a decent budget. They're a very insignificant puddle in the ocean that is the internet. They make stupid articles, sure, but their influence isn't really that big, and they're not doing anything dumb that is actually damaging. My point is, they're harmless, and it's better for me to just move on. That is, until...
So I wrote an article for a site called AniFem's.com.
So here's a Twitter user at Otaple who also has a YouTube channel. In the YouTube channel, Otaple shared a little bit of experience in writing an AniFem as an outsider.
This article is about female sports anime.
Could the Tokyo 2020 Olympics lead to more women's sport anime? Now, that title really sounds like a feminist headline grab, but that's actually not her fault. We'll get to that. Reading through the article, the content is actually not that bad. Sure, there are your typical critiques of fan services as expected, but this article managed to be several degrees better than, say, Amelia Cooks' articles. Unlike Amelia, she actually mentions Free, and saying that Free is a rare example, a popular example, but a rare example nonetheless. She also mentions that male-centric sports animes are a hell of a lot less sexualized, and female-centric sports animes are more sexualized. A bit of a broad generalization that some of the more hardcore anime fans can counter with. Feel free in the comments down below, but in counter with all of that, she actually recommends female sports animes that do not sexualize the female characters. The writer has genuine knowledge on sports animes dating back to the late 60s, and the writer actually gives recommendations. That's just several degrees better than Amelia Cook, who just said, "Send a message with your money," without actually giving any anime recommendations. This article is not perfect in any sort of way. I can give my own counter-arguments and disagreements on some of the things written, but there's nothing like rage-worthy or cringe-inducing as the other articles that AniFem made. It's written by someone who actually does work and has decent knowledge in animes, at least more than your typical Mary Sue bloggers, and I appreciate that. You can go and read it yourself, but keep in mind that this is the judgment from a casual anime fan, so some of you might get triggered over a couple of details that she gets wrong, so proceed with caution. This leads me to believe that AniFem might have some form of legitimacy. This article manages to actually achieve their goal. It manages to make Western feminists who have problems with fan service to get into animes by recommending animes that don't have fan services, and this article provides plenty of them. Good job. However, the story continues.
So when I sent this draft into the editor, there was pretty much zero feedback given, and I was told, this looks good, it's going up on the site tomorrow. And the draft I sent had typos. I didn't realize that that was going to be the process, because I'm not a total rookie to this. I've done guest posts on blogs, I write on Anime Herald, so I thought there would be at least a little bit of back and forth between me and the editor, but there wasn't. So I went back through, fixed as many of the typos that I could myself, sent in a cleaner version and said, okay. Then the post goes up on the site, and it has a completely different title from what I had suggested. The cover image is from an anime that isn't mentioned in the article at all. I didn't really care about the title change, I was just kind of taken aback by it. But I did care about the cover image. I thought it was misleading. I thought that the image should be from something that the article is actually talking about. So I gave that feedback, and the editor said, you know, I can't change the title, which was fine, but I can change the image. The reason I went with this image was because the only anime that I had access to that were mentioned in the article were Chihaya Furu and Free. And I didn't think those were relevant enough to screen cap on my own and put in the article. I didn't want to just, Google and get some random screen cap from some non-legitimate source, which is pretty understandable. Except that if you look on AniFem's.com, their top post about their Patreon has a watermark from Japanese TV broadcast on it. So someone at some point did just Google and find a random screen cap, and so that's obviously not a site-wide practice. But it was like, okay, whatever, I'll get the screen cap myself, send it to you, and the screen cap has now been changed, so that's good. The weekend that I was sending these emails, I was at a convention. Specifically, I was working in the dealer's room, and so I was in the basement of a hotel pretty much all weekend without internet. Even just kind of over the weekend in general, I don't check my email that often. I decide to log into the private chat room that this site uses for the members and contributors to talk to each other, and I get a message that says my account has been disabled.
Wow, this is quite a dick move from AniFem. AniFem, the last few actions that you do, which is actually writing about animes, giving content, bringing actual freaking content into your site, gives me a little faith in your site. Just a little, not much. I'm glad that you can actually get good writers. I'm actually glad that you can actually bring in some content. But this is how you treat your featured freelancers? I mean, if your aim is to make the anime community more hospitable to Western feminists, then why did you drive off someone who wants to help you on achieving that goal? Well, I'm gonna let Otaple to give in her own inputs.
So I emailed my editor again. She informs me that because I did not reply to her quickly enough on a Sunday, in addition to things like not following Anime Feminist on Twitter and apparently liking tweets by people that my editor did not approve of, I was cut off from access to this private chat room, and it was heavily implied that I would not be working with this site again. I was not paid to write that article. I was never given any kind of agreement or anything when working with this site. I was entirely a volunteer, so I think it's okay for me to talk about what happened. The idea that because I wasn't meshing well with this editor and kind of other people involved in the site, the idea that I was essentially dismissed is pretty troubling. It means that I no longer have that foothold to express my opinions to a wider audience because I didn't really smooth this crowd over well enough. My brand of opinions or my brand of feminism isn't allowed on the site called Anime Feminism. It's pretty disheartening just because it is very unfortunate for a feminist group to pick and choose what kind of people that they want to elevate based on things like who they're following on Twitter. The message that I received in the sense of what I was hearing from the explanations as to why I was cut off from this chat room, they were very paranoid about letting outsiders in because of all of the harassment that the founder of the website, Amelia Cook, had gotten from people like the anti-feminist groups, where she was getting death threats and just really nasty stuff of that caliber, which obviously no one deserves. Unfortunately, in those people sending that harassment with the goal of kind of messing up the goals that this group is trying to achieve, they did succeed in instilling this type of paranoia that is now leading to the exclusion of certain feminists who don't have as loud of a voice or as popular as a platform to talk on. I don't know if I want to work with that site again, just because my experience with it was very negative. There were a lot of other things kind of behind the scenes that I didn't really touch on, where I didn't feel welcomed in the environment. The goal of feminism is to help people feel like they can be open and feel like they have an equal voice. Anime Feminist did not do that for me at all. I actually submitted a lot of ideas, and I actually submitted multiple articles to that editor. One article she just never acknowledged at all, so I have no idea what she thought about it. But I was trying really hard to be a resource. You know, I didn't necessarily agree with what I saw this site being what it was, but I thought that maybe in the future it could be something that I would want to be associated with. And so I very much offered help to maybe try to reach that goal. And I don't think that's gonna happen now.
Freaking hell. Just freaking hell. And sorry for the constant jump cuts. So, this is AniFem's management, ladies and gentlemen. One girl comes in with good intentions on helping the site, volunteering with a not so half bad article, but the site just dismissed her completely because of differences of opinions. Please do give some wonderful support to the girl. Leave some comments or send messages or follow her on Twitter or something. Give your wonderful, wonderful support. This girl absolutely deserves it. I don't even have anything to add. I think the entire situation speaks for itself. Links to everything are, as always, in the description box below. On a very lighter note, I'm gonna end this video giving a special shout out to Peppy Popo for the wonderful, wonderful pledge on Patreon, and also for giving me this grumpy me. Oh my god, this is freaking amazing. Thank you so much. You're absolutely fantastic. I guess that sums up this video for today. If you like this, you can go ahead and click the like button and subscribe for more. If you wish, you can support me on Patreon. And thanks for watching.